Throughout human history, no powerful empire has ever been able to, like the United States, remain thousands of miles away from other continents yet still exert such deep control over the entire world. The United States has a national territory of 9.37 million square kilometers, making it the fourth largest country in the world. So how did it develop into the world's leading economic and military power? I will produce a series of videos to explain the development history of the United States. This video is the first episode. At present, the widely accepted early settlement theory holds that about 25,000 years ago, the first humans arrived in the Americas via the Bering Land Bridge. These early inhabitants are known as Paleo-Indians, and they gradually spread throughout North America. Around 11,500 BC, one of the earliest cultures within today's US territory emerged, the Clovis culture, characterized by the production of Clovis spear points. By around 10,000 BC, indigenous peoples had spread across most of North America, diverging into hundreds of tribes and groups with distinct cultures. Initially, these native peoples hunted large animals such as mammoths and mastodons. But as these animals went extinct, American bison became the primary food source. Around 8,900 BC, the Folsom culture arose in this region. It may have originated from the Clovis culture, and was also marked by its distinctive spear points, occupying large areas of central North America. Around 6,500 BC, the ancient Southwest cultures began to develop in what is now the southwestern United States, characterized by diverse survival strategies, the rise of agriculture, and unique ceramic styles. Around 5,000 BC, a group of Dene speakers departed from Asia and possibly reached northwestern North America by boat, first settling on today's Haida in British Columbia. They migrated along the Pacific coast and inland, establishing seasonal villages, fishing in summer and gathering food in winter. These Dene peoples later formed the Athabascan language family, which eventually split into three branches: Northern Athabascan, Pacific Coast Athabascan, and Southern Athabascan. The Southern Athabascan branch later developed into the Apache and Navajo language groups. Today, Navajo is the most widely spoken Dene language. Around the same time, other groups, such as speakers of Siouan and Algonquin languages, followers of the Ashara tradition, and the people known as the Pueblo ancestors, also settled in the western United States. Around 4,000 BC, some tribes living in the Appalachian region developed a unique Iroquoian language, later forming the Seneca, Cayuga, Onondaga, and other nations. Around 2,000 BC, maize cultivation began in the American Southwest. Later, beans, squash, and other crops gradually became major agricultural products. Around 1,000 BC, groups began settling in the central Mississippi River Valley, later migrating to what is now Minnesota and splitting into two main branches, the Dakota and Lakota. Around 600 BC, a culture emerged in present-day Ohio. Its peoples were among the earliest mound builders. By around 100 BC, several indigenous cultures flourished. Around the beginning of the Common Era, these cultures absorbed traits from neighboring groups and established the Hopewell exchange system, an early network for tools and goods spanning a vast area. But by around AD 500, this culture was absorbed into a broader tradition. Beginning around AD 800, the Mississippian culture arose, mainly in what is now the south-central United States. It was known for constructing large earthen mounds. Its central city was Cahokia, located near present-day St. Louis, Missouri. At its peak in the 12th century, Cahokia had a population of about 20,000, centered around a 30-meter high mound. Beginning around AD 900, the ancestors of the Pueblo peoples began building cliff dwellings in present-day Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado. Some of these structures were city-sized, such as Pueblo Bonito along the Chaco River in New Mexico, inhabited from AD 828 to 1126. And the Cliff Palace, built between AD 1190 and 1260. Around AD 1450, powerful Iroquoian-speaking groups, the Oneida, Mohawk, Seneca, and others, joined together to form the Iroquois Confederacy. The Iroquois fought many surrounding tribes, and as they expanded, smaller groups such as the Osage, Caddo, and Wichita were forced to migrate west. Around AD 1500, some Shoshone people living in the western Great Basin crossed the Rocky Mountains and settled across the Great Plains. In the 16th century, a branch of the Shoshone living in what is now Iowa migrated south and later became known as the Comanche. In 1513, Spanish explorer Juan Ponce de León became the first European to arrive and land on present-day U.S. territory. Impressed by the natural landscape, he named the region Florida in honor of Spain's Festival of Flowers. In 1526, the Spanish attempted to establish the first settlement on the mainland of what is now the United States, San Miguel de Gualdape, but the colony ultimately failed due to disease outbreaks and a rebellion by the accompanying African slaves. In 1528, a Spanish expedition led by Pánfilo de Navarre reached the Tampa Bay area of Florida. But a storm caused nearly all members to perish, and the colonization attempt failed again. In 1540, Spanish explorer Francisco Vázquez de Coronado led the first European expedition across the American Southwest, reaching as far as present-day Kansas. In 1559, explorer Tristan de Luna established the settlement of Santa Maria de Ocos in present-day Pensacola, but it was destroyed by a hurricane that same year. In 1565, Spanish Admiral Pedro Menéndez de Avilés founded the settlement of St. Augustine, which became the oldest continuously inhabited European-founded settlement in the continental United States. In 1567, Spanish explorer Juan Pardo built Fort San Juan in a village in present-day North Carolina, the first European outpost established in the interior of the United States, but it was destroyed 2 years later. In 1570, the Spanish attempted to establish a Jesuit mission on the coast of present-day Virginia. But the following year nearly all missionaries were killed by local native peoples. In 1562, the French attempted to establish the Charles Fort settlement on the coast of present-day South Carolina, but it was abandoned the next year. In 1564, the French once again tried to establish Fort Caroline on Florida's east coast, but due to conflicts with native peoples, it too was eventually abandoned. In 1604, the French established a settlement on St. Croix Island in present-day Maine, giving rise to the colony of Acadia, which later expanded to Canada's Gaspé Peninsula. In 1682, France established the colony of Louisiana as an administrative district of New France, covering large parts of present-day U.S. territory. In 1579, English Captain Francis Drake reached the coast of present-day California and claimed the region for the English crown, though it was not actually occupied. In 1585, the English established the Roanoke colony on Roanoke Island in present-day North Carolina, their first territory in North America. But the colony failed, and its settlers mysteriously vanished, earning it the name, the Lost Colony. In 1587, John White led another English expedition to re-establish a settlement on the island. But due to lack of supplies, it was abandoned around 1590. In 1607, during the reign of James I, the English successfully established Jamestown, the first stable, permanent English settlement in North America, naming the colony Virginia in honor of Queen Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen. In 1620, a ship called the Mayflower brought a group of English Protestants fleeing religious persecution to the coast of present-day Massachusetts, where they founded Plymouth Colony. After a year of crop failure and harsh winter, the settlers achieved a successful harvest the next summer. In the autumn of 1621, at the governor's proposal, they hunted ducks, turkeys, and fish, gathered corn, and held a celebration. This became the origin of the American Thanksgiving. In 1628, English settlers established the Massachusetts Bay Colony. In 1629, the province of New Hampshire was founded, with John Mason becoming its first proprietor. In 1632, Maryland was founded as a refuge for Catholics. Like the Virginia colony, its residents were mainly farmers and plantation owners. In 1636, Minister Roger Williams, who opposed the colonists' treatment of native peoples and the religious intolerance of the Massachusetts Bay Colony governor, joined with other settlers to establish the Connecticut colony. Its early economy relied primarily on the fur and tobacco trade. In 1691, Plymouth Colony and the Massachusetts Bay Colony were merged to form the province of Massachusetts Bay. In 1712, the Carolina Territory was split into North Carolina and South Carolina. In 1732, British soldier James Edward Oglethorpe founded the colony of Georgia. It served both as a buffer between the British colonies and Spanish Florida and as a place offering new chances for former prisoners and impoverished people. Georgia was the last of the 13 colonies that would later join the American Revolution. In 1621, the Dutch West India Company established the colony of New Netherland. In 1624, the company sponsored 30 families to settle on Manhattan Island. The next year, Fort Amsterdam was built on the island, and the settlement was renamed New Amsterdam, becoming an extension of New Netherland. The city grew rapidly and soon became an important port and busy commercial center. In 1638, the Swedish South Company sent an expedition led by Belgian merchant Peter Minuit to found Fort Christina in present-day Delaware, creating the colony of New Sweden. Over the next 17 years, 12 expeditions brought settlers from Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Norway, Russia, Poland, Germany, and Sweden, establishing multiple settlements and making the colony a culturally diverse region. In 1655, during the Second Northern War, the Dutch of New Netherland conquered New Sweden and renamed it New Jersey. In 1663, the Carolina colony founded the port city of Charleston, which became a major commercial hub in the region. In 1664, the English seized the Dutch colony of New Netherland, taking control of New Amsterdam, and used it to form the colonies of New Jersey, New York, and Delaware. In 1667, the Treaty of Breda was signed, ending the Second Anglo-Dutch War. Under the treaty, England agreed to cede the colony of Suriname to the Netherlands in exchange for control over New Netherland, renaming New Amsterdam as New York in honor of James Stuart, Duke of York, who would later become King James II of England. In 1673, France's New France colony expanded its Canadian territory into the Great Lakes region, reaching as far west as Lake Michigan. In 1681, religious thinker and writer William Penn founded Pennsylvania as a refuge for Quakers. The following year, the city of Philadelphia was established. In 1722, the Iroquois nations enacted the Great Law of Peace, which became the Constitution of the Iroquois Confederacy. Thus, the transformation of the continental United States, from unclaimed land to the early colonial era, was complete. In the next episode, we will move into the mid-18th century to see how North American colonists progressed from the cry of "no taxation without representation" to armed resistance, unveiling the beginning of the American Revolutionary War.